Hi, good evening, good evening, good evening, Facebook family. It is good to see you again. It is Monday night, and I have a juicy topic. Hello, and good evening, Facebook family. It is a Monday night, and I wanted to come and speak with you about something that I've been having some conversations with some friends of mine over the past few days that I thought really would benefit you here as well. Tonight's conversation is going to be primarily for you souls that are in black bodies. So, if you're black, this conversation is geared towards you. If you're not, you can feel free to listen and participate, even ask questions. But I just ask that you be super mindful with your comments, as this particular conversation is specifically geared towards souls in black bodies. And today I want to talk to you about really in order to liberate ourselves, in order to really experience liberation, we have to not only look at what are the systems in place uh, in our realities and in our societies and cultures that are oppressive to us. What are some of the other people? Hey, PJ, what some of the other people in the world doing to us? But we have to really look at what are we doing to ourselves. And more important, that is actually the most important part, to look at where are we oppressing ourselves. And if you've been following this series for a while, you know I talk about that everything happens from the inside out first. That your internal state, your belief systems and your emotional state, and which we call a vibrational state, and also your behaviors towards yourself are what manifest and create your reality. And so I really want to talk to you all today about how are the different ways we are oppressing ourselves and how these ways of oppressing ourselves are contributing to our experience of being oppressed in the world. So, this is again, this is specifically for the black culture and speaking for my fellow people in black skin. So, one of the ways that we oppress ourselves is we don't rest. Rest is different than just slowing down. Rest is different than just wiping things off our to-do list. I had a conversation, but I was talking with a friend of mine. We were talking about how we learned how to stop, but not how to really rest. And in rest really is about there being no expenditure of your energy anywhere. That your energy doesn't have to be expended in any form, right? And I know for me, you know, I would say I was resting, right? I would wipe my to do list, but then at home, here I am checking on my emails. I'm constantly scrolling on my phone. I'm, thinking about what I need to do at work and what kind of things I need to be doing, and not actually, and that's another expenditure of my energy. And not resting puts us in a space of exhaustion. And most African Americans that I know, most black people that I know around the world, and I know them all across in all regions of the country, and I know some around the world, but especially in America, most black people that I know are exhausted. And it's because there are some messages running in our culture. There's a message of the hustle culture, right? The grind and hustle culture, to grind and grind and grind to where you burn out your nervous system and you're fully stressed. But it's about achieving to any cost. And the cost that you actually pay is your own sense of inner peace, your own health and wellness. And it's no wonder why our culture is experiencing so many illnesses that are stress related because we are in such high stress. And this level of high stress is keeping us from being able to live restful lives, lives of ease, lives of peace. And that is how we are oppressing ourselves. And this is something that is really, and as I'm talking about all this, why this is really important is because as a soul having a human experience, you teach the universe how to treat you. You set the tone. How you treat yourself, what you allow for yourself, what you give to yourself, what you don't give for yourself, sets the vibrational tone for how the universe shows up for you in your life. Because it sends the signal that this is me, this is what I expect, and this is what I want. And so when you live a stressful life, when you are constantly grinding, when you are constantly hustling, and again, it's no wonder because we get so many messages like you have to be twice as good as them to get half as much. I know that was a huge message when I was growing up. That was in the black culture. That if you're black, especially as a black man, you have to be twice as good as our white counterparts in order to get half as much. So you would study harder, you would work harder, you would do more, you would grind just to eke out what you believe was your small piece of the pie. But what ended up happening is you would get the achievements, you would get the accolades, you would get the money, you would get the job, but you would be stressed. You would be unhappy. You would be exhausted. And that is a way in which we are oppressing ourselves. The narratives that we are running that don't allow us to rest, that don't allow us to yeah, PJ saying for your father said that all the time. It's constantly in our culture. This narrative, and this it's not allowing us to have restful lives, to live a life of ease, and it's not allowing us to sit into. Yeah, Ronald saying this is especially in the black same gender loving community, especially there. That's even more so. If you're same gender loving in black, you have a belief that you have to do even more. And another reason why, again, black same gender loving people are exhausted and black same gender loving people are experiencing high amounts of illness because your body cannot operate in wellness and be exhausted at the same time. It needs rest. And this is how we're oppressing ourselves. We're not even allowing ourselves to experience our true wellness. And we're disconnected from the message. And again, this is not our fault. Again, this is something that came through our socializations growing up. This came through our traumatizations growing up. This came through the systems and the educations that we received from not just in our families, but also in our schoolings and everything. And in this culture, America is a exhaustive culture. It is exhaustive culture, but it is about the grind and the hustle, and we've bought into that, and that's what we're running. But we are oppressing ourselves with this, and we're not allowing ourselves to really sit into the truth of our soul that we're already worthy beings. We don't have to do more in order to deserve to receive. We already receive. We deserve to receive unconditionally, whether we break our backs or not. And that's also this whole hustle and grind thing is also a residual from slavery. That's a residual narrative of us having to break our backs to deserve just a little bit or to deserve our piece of the pie. We had to literally break our backs. This is where that messaging actually comes from. It's getting passed down through the DNA and through the consciousness and through the energy field. And this is the oppressive message of how we continue to oppress ourselves by running this narrative. And so now, in order to liberate ourselves, we have to rest collectively. We are going to have to slow way down. We are going to have to allow ourselves to believe that life already loves us and already wants to be good to us. And we don't have to bend over backwards and do triple the effort in order to make it. Like, we don't have to make life love us. It already loves us. We just have to let it. And once you begin to treat yourself from rest, so again, I said you teach the universe how to treat you. So when you live an exhausted life and you live a stressed out, overwhelmed life, right? Then what you are attracting and what you send the message to the universe is to send me more that overwhelms me. Send me more that exhausts me. That's the energy signal you send out, and that's what you end up attracting back. So you have this cycle that happens over and over again where you stress out. And this is something I learned working with people over years. I've worked with celebrities. I've worked with multimillionaires, people that you would think, they have it all. And they were grinding so hard and they had it all, and they would trade. They would come to me, limping to me, basically, willing to trade their entire lives for some peace and some rest, willing to trade everything that they've earned, because we're taught that these things, right, these things, that these accolades and things are the end all be all. And if you just overwhelm and stress out, and entrepreneurs can tell you this, like entrepreneurs that hustle, 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 you can get the money, you can get the accolades, you can sell the products, you can sell the services, but you'll lose all of yourself in the meantime. And then you get all of that stuff and it's not even worth it because you're burnt out. And this is how we oppress ourselves. We are burning ourselves out as a culture. And it is time to put that down and to amplify rest. And so that's one way we're oppressing ourselves, and that we have to look at. And if we want to live a liberated life, right? We want to live a life of freedom. Freedom and exhaustion are not synonymous. They're not synonymous. Freedom and rest are synonymous. Freedom and ease are synonymous. Freedom and peace are synonymous. And so, if we want to live freedom, we have to give freedom to ourselves first. And we're going to have to change the way we show up in our lives so that we have a deeper relationship with rest. I'm raising my hand. This was part of huge, big part of my journey. If you've been following me, you know I had my own healing journey, and a big part of my healing was learning how to have a deeper relationship with rest. And that was like learning how to really not put so much on my schedule, not put so much on my to-do list, change how I worked in the world, do work for myself so I didn't have to be in a system that required more of my energy than what I had the capacity to serve and give, right? And changing my day so that I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning and start the work, that I can at least wake up rested. But it was about making choices that allowed me to serve and nourish what my body needed in terms of rest, and saying no to some things, and being willing to be called crazy by some people, right? Because the dominant culture out there is all about, you need to be in overwhelm, you need to be in exhaustion, you need to hustle, and you need to grind. And I had to be willing to step out of that culture and be looked at as odd by the culture for a while in order to get my well-being. And what I found was, the more I rested, the more things came to me easily. The things that I thought that I had to hustle and grind for, and I used to burn my nervous system out, things come to be so much easier now. And that's really a key that you learn about manifestation. Manifestation and attraction, the key, real key to it is to have a sense of rest. We think it has to come out, right? That um, we think that this stuff has to come out and I see you all commenting. I'll get to your comments here in a second, but we think this stuff has to come in a space where, you know, the only way you get a lot of money, or the only way the universe will manifest, is if you're acting, doing. And the balance of that is, you just have to be more. You have to be in your own energy. You have to be in your signature energy that is unique to your soul. And that energy feels like peace. And that energy feels like joy. And you are not anywhere close to that energy when you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you're exhausted. And this is thanks Paul, saying this is his style of shirt. Thanks. Um I just got it. It's a new shirt, y'all. So if you like it. Um but yeah, so this is one of the elements of which we have to stop oppressing ourselves as black people, as souls and black bodies. Is we have got to put down the message and the narrative of hustle and grind, and we have got to start embodying and taking on the narrative of rest. And the more we allow ourselves to rest, the more the universe will manifest a restful experience for us. Remember, you teach the universe how to treat you. So when you make time to rest, when you make time to really move at a pace that allows you to feel yourself living, when you allow yourself to move at a pace that doesn't burn out your nervous system, but it feeds it and it soothes it, then the message that you send to the universe is, oh, I care for myself and I'm about ease and peace. And so the universe then begins to manifest for you situations and relationships and events that support your ease and your peace and your restfulness. You cannot attract restfulness from exhaustion. You cannot attract situations that will let you feel, no matter how hard you fight for it. This is the other thing that's the that nobody's really teaching us. You can be in the streets fighting hard, fighting super hard for rest. But if you do not have rest inside of your energy state, you won't experience it. You won't experience it. You can't. So this is a part where we need to look at how we're oppressing ourselves in our culture around not being able to rest. One of the things that I'll give you, one of the resources that I love, I just absolutely am in love with this particular platform, and it's called the Nap Ministry. It's run by a beautiful woman. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I highly recommend that you check this out. It's called the Nap Ministry, and it's all about teaching, especially Black souls, how to really start to connect in with a deeper relationship with rest and getting naps and sleep. And remember, rest is not just sleep. It's not just synonymous with sleep. Rest is periods of time where there's nothing being asked of your energy. There's nothing, you're not being called to expend your energy in any way, to give it out in any way, right? So that may be just, taking, turning your phone off, turning the computer off, and just watching something silly on TV. It may be going to sit out on your front porch with a nice glass of tea and watching the sunset or the sunrise. It may be taking a walk in nature, or just sitting, not even walking, just sitting by, sitting on the beach or sitting in nature. It may be just having a good laugh with one of your friends. It's rest is where my energy can literally stop giving out, and it can stop so that it can be refreshed. Because if you don't rest, your energy can't be refreshed. That's how we get drained. That's why we're exhausted, because we don't have a strong energy core. We don't have enough, not a strong energy core, but we're not fueled. Our energy is not full. We're running on empty cups, basically. So that's one way. Um, Oh yeah, so PJ saying I stopped hustling, grinding, and my small business has flourished. I've earned more in 4 months than I have in an entire year. Rest, rest, rest. Yes, PJ, this is the same experience I've experienced every time I've really dived into rest. This is the same experience all of my clients that I've ever worked with, when they actually truly take a deep dive into living a more restful life, what you find out is you already deserve. That's the big message you find out. You find out that this whole thing about believing that you didn't deserve as you are, that you didn't deserve unconditionally, that you had to do and you had to stress and you had to become and you had to put more on your plate than that what you could handle, that's how you really deserved. What you find out when you finally truthfully take a deep dive into rest is that you are already a worthy being, and life already loves you, and it starts to bring all these things to you in your state of rest. And also, rest is your home energy. And all the stuff you really want, that you really ask for and that really nourishes and feeds you, is always sent to your home address. The universe sends it to your home address. But if you're not home, you can't get it. You won't ever see it, no matter how hard you work. You have to be home. And rest helps you come home. And then all of a sudden you see all this stuff just at your door, and it's just coming, 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 coming. And that's also where you get inspired. Your greatest ideas come through when you're resting. I get my greatest ideas in the bathtub. I get my greatest ideas when I'm in nature, being still, or when I'm walking. I get my greatest ideas when I'm just laying still in the bed. My greatest ideas don't come when I'm just working, working, working hard, hard. They always come when I'm in a state of rest, because that's where divinity speaks through. Divinity doesn't speak through all the hustle and bustle of the mind. Divinity speaks when the mind is slow and when it's still. I get it during meditation, right? These are periods of rest. These are when the divine ideas and the divine guidance and wisdom gets poured in us. And this is what, as Black people, we've been so disconnected from because our culture has been socialized and traumatized into into a period of exhaustion and overwhelm. And in order to liberate ourselves, we need to rest. All right, so I've said enough about that. So the other thing is like getting our needs met, right? When we're not, and more, getting our needs met first before we show up to meet somebody else's. And showing up to meet somebody else's needs, always like being the nice one, being not being the self-serving one, but being the serving one for other people. That is oppression. Because what that does is when you're always showing up for other people, and I was talking with a friend of mine today about how one of these narratives that uh, I was talking to my friend about one of the narratives that happens a lot, especially in my parents' generation, is how, if you got money, if you were blessed to come up and to get a good job or to get a good business and you had money, it was kind of your responsibility, right, to help everybody else in the family. So you were this well of money for other people, even if you didn't even have a lot. Right, just if you were just making more than the rest of your family, you had to take care of everybody else. You had to always show up for everybody else. And if little Johnny over here needed money for school, you gave it to them. If your cousin needed money for a flat tire, you gave it to them. And it was always this meeting of other people's needs. But what ended up happening, you were always showing up for other people's needs at the expense of your own, and your needs weren't getting met. And so again, you were feeling drained. You were feeling exhausted again. You weren't feeling fulfilled and happy because you were always showing up to help somebody else feel fulfilled and happy and not you. And so what ends up happening again is you're oppressed. Your needs aren't getting met. That is oppression. And this is the oppression we do to ourselves, right? And again, how you treat yourself is how you teach the universe to treat you. So if you don't get your needs met, and if you're always showing up to meet other people's needs, then what ends up happening is you continually attract situations and people to you that are going to require you to meet their needs first. And you're never going to be in this space where you get to meet your own needs until you make the decision to stop this pattern altogether. You have to make it. You have to make it. Right? If you're always like showing up and one of the things I was always doing was showing up and caregiving for my parents who, and when I talk caregiving for my parents, they weren't even sick, right? They were always asking me to do something. They would always call at the last minute. They would always do this. And I would always say yes because I needed to be the good son. And this is what a good Black man does. And this is what all this has to do. And I was always meeting their needs and mine weren't getting met. And I was wondering why I was sad. And I was wondering why I was so angry because I wasn't getting fulfilled, because I wasn't doing the things that actually nourished me. But I was doing that to myself. I was saying yes when I needed to say no. I didn't have boundaries, right? And so what ended up happening was I was oppressing myself. And from that space, see, here's another thing to really understand for all of you, and we'll talk about this in another second, but like if you, again, I really want to make this really clear. If you are in this world as a soul and you are constantly showing up for other people at the expense of not showing up for yourself, right? And what I mean by that is, you're helping them, but you have stuff, you have projects that are unfinished, right? You're helping them get their house together, but you have stuff in your house that's broken or not fixed that you need to get fixed. You're giving them money, but you need that money to do something for your own self. That's how you don't get your needs met, right? When you're not able to get, you're helping this person with their passion project and their dream, but you haven't really followed your own dream. That's how you're not getting your needs met, and that's oppression. And this is, if we want to be liberated, this is the path. You have to liberate yourself first. And once you become a liberated being, then you can show up in the world and help liberate other people. Only liberated people liberate people. If you are not liberated, you are not going to be able to help liberate somebody else. And this is the real thing that really, I'm really want to get into this movement that's happening now, is you have got to start liberating yourself, black man, black woman. You've got to stop stressing, stop overwhelming, stop showing up for everybody and not putting yourself first, right? And again, once you put yourself first, you send a message to the universe that says, I get my needs met. I am important in my life. And the universe brings relationships and people and situations that reflects that, confirms that, and affirms that, and supports that. But if you don't do that, if you send out, if you're constantly showing up for other people, what you're sending a message out is, I don't think I'm important. My needs aren't important. And so you're constantly going to attract situations that don't allow you to meet your needs, that continue to oppress you. If you have a sense of getting your needs met and you are liberated, because that's where the feeling of liberation and freedom comes from, my needs are met, right? Then you only can attract that, more of that. But when you don't, you're going to attract more of your oppression. No matter what systems change on the outside, by the way. No matter what systems change on the outside, they can change. And if you are continuing to oppress yourself, you will continue to manifest oppressive situations and a culture around you that oppresses you. Guaranteed. So that's another way. And I just have a few more that I'm going to go through quickly because I didn't mean to, I got so caught up on rest, y'all, because it's so important. But I wanted to move through these things quickly. The other thing is like, are you expressing your true self? If you're suppressing an aspect of yourself, right? Whether that is an aspect of your personality, right? You may be quirky and weird, but in the culture, and in black culture, a lot of times it's changed a lot. But when I was growing up, there was no space for you to be, especially a man, to be a quirky, weird man. You were not you were not looked at as someone who belonged and someone who was accepted in the culture. And so for a lot of black men who were quirky and weird, they suppressed that aspect of themselves in order to belong, in order to feel black enough, right? We have this whole thing in our culture, are you black enough? And what that narrative begins to do, which is an oppressive narrative, what it begins to do is it makes you, if there's any aspect of who you are that doesn't fit inside that narrative, you will shave it off as a child, because one of the biggest needs you have as a child is the feeling of belonging. And so what you'll do is you'll begin to shave off those pieces of yourself. You'll begin to hide them or push them down or try to shave them off so that you can appear black enough. There's things like, again, if you didn't sound black. I remember getting teased because I went to a private school, and I would get teased a lot about, you don't sound black enough, or you're trying to be white going to that school, or, all of these things that we have that are oppressive in our culture, where we say, if you don't fit this, you don't fit in with us. You can't sit with us, right? There's that whole, you can't sit with us unless you fit like this. This is an oppressive narrative. And what ends up happening is you begin to suppress aspects of yourself. Another aspect that is huge when I was growing up in my time was huge, what was suppressing was your sexuality. In black culture, the only acceptable sexuality was heterosexuality, not bisexuality, not, same gender or gay, not trans. And so if you, or especially not non binary, right? And so if you didn't fit in that, you had to, in order to fit into black culture and to be accepted by your people, you began to suppress and you began to hide. And that's how you started to oppress yourself. And that was me the majority of my life, right? Trying to fit in, trying to hide, and oppressing myself. And the thing about it is, liberation and suppression do not go hand in hand. If you are suppressed in any form, if you're suppressing your sexuality, if you're suppressing your personality, if you're suppressing your beliefs, again, another thing about it as well in blackness is, if you're not a Christian, if you're not a Christian, are you fully expressing all of your beliefs everywhere around your family, in your job, all of that? Like, do you feel fully expressed? Are you suppressing or hiding or squashing down your truth to try and keep the peace? That's oppression, right? And we have all these oppressive narratives in our culture, right? And this is kind of what happens when you are you come from an oppressed people, is you begin to buy the oppressive narratives, and they begin to become your own narratives by which you run your life. And the narratives we have is like, there are only certain things about us that are acceptable, instead of the truth of the soul, which is all of your being is acceptable and lovable, right? Because that's basically what we're saying. It's about love. It's about your, only these things are lovable about you. And what the soul knows is all of your being is lovable, no matter what it is. And in order to liberate yourself, you have to really get that message in your consciousness and begin to liberate all the aspects of yourself that you've been pushing away, that you've been rejecting, that you've been hiding, that you've been pushing down because you've been trying to belong, or you've been trying to receive connection, or you've been trying to be approved, or you've been trying to be accepted. You've got to liberate yourself. And how you do that is you liberate all of your truth. You let your entire truth see the light of day. All of it. No matter what you think, no matter how ugly you think it is, that you let it see. And that's when you'll experience freedom. But if there's any part of your truth that you're trying to put in a little box and hide away and said, they can't know this, right? Or, I'm lovable as long as this doesn't come out, right? Or because the message that we get in oppressive societies is, you can't live your whole truth and be loved at the same time. You can't speak your whole truth. You can't be all of yourself and be loved at the same time. You can only do these pieces. These pieces over here are what's acceptable and what will be loved, right? Think about the things that happens with, like, we've had this whole conversation about natural hair. This is your natural hair. This is how your hair grows from your body naturally. But yet there's so much in our culture where people don't even feel good and don't feel beautiful in their natural hair, so they always are trying to change it. That is a suppression. And that is how way we are oppressing ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs to be in their natural hair all the time. But what it means is that there is no, that if you had to be in your natural hair, there is nothing in you that feels any less beautiful. There's nothing in you that feels any less worthy, right? This is all the different ways in which we are suppressing ourselves, in which we are not allowing the true self that we are, the wholeness of ourselves, to see the light of day. And again, you teach the universe how to treat you. So if you're not being your whole self, you'll never attract to you someone who will love you for who you really are. You will never really attract to you what's actually yours in this universe to have, and that will actually really nourish you. Remember what I said before, the universe sends all your goods to your home address. So those dreams that you have, those authentic dreams that you have, that authentic soulmate that you have, that dream of money that will really nourish the life that you're dreaming about that you have, is at your home address. And if you're not being yourself, if you're not expressing your full sexuality, if you're not expressing your belief systems and your values, if you're not expressing your full personality, if you're hiding and anything, that there are pieces of that that are always going to be unavailable to you because you're not home to open them up. And that's how we oppress ourselves, right? And this is the path to liberating ourselves as Black people, is to fully live our truth, to fully live our truth. There was a thing, one of the things that I used to go through. My mother was, when I was growing up, she was a huge stickler on grammar and English speaking and speaking proper. And, um, she would have all these, little tests and quizzes for me throughout the weeks. But I would also get punished if I didn't speak, if I didn't use correct sentences, if I didn't used correct nouns and verbs, if I used any type of slang or ebonics. And it made me think that my natural way of speaking was wrong, right? And as an adult, one of the things I've had to heal as I began to reparent myself was understanding that I don't have to always speak in perfect sentences all the time. I don't have to do that even in professional settings. I can be myself. I can use Ebonics if I want to, which, by the way, I don't think is a less than language. I think it's another language that has equal value, right? I don't have to do that to feel that I'm acceptable or approvable or lovable. However I show up in this world as my authentic expression and what my truth really is and how it wants to fully be expressed is enough. And it is worthy. And life loves it. And it already deserves to receive its good. And so that's another aspect that we're going to have to learn, really, to liberate ourselves, is really to liberate our truths in the world, our individual truths and our collective truth. To not try to try and rearrange it or edit it in any type of way in order to make it acceptable to other people. That we accept it as it is wholly, and our only job is not to make it presentable, but to express it. That's your job as a soul here. Your job as a soul was not to edit and try to make your soul's light presentable to other people. It was to accept your light and to express it fully through you in the world as it is. And that's where our true liberation will come from, right? And then the next thing is like the same thing, which kind of goes right in what we're talking about with, like, are you policing yourself? We're talking about in this movement now a lot about police brutality, right? And how the police are being, unacceptably brutal to Black bodies. Now the question is, where are you being unacceptably brutal to yourself? How are you policing how you look? Do you feel good in your skin? Are you always in the mirror, pulling at your clothes, or every time you look in the mirror, do you see something wrong? Do you see something that shouldn't, that you think, oh my God, I should lose 5 pounds, or oh my God, I wish my nose didn't look like that, or oh my God, look at my skin? That is policing yourself. That is oppressing yourself. What would love say to you if it was looking through your eyes in the mirror? What would divine love, pure love, looking through your own eyes at yourself, what would it say to you? I promise you it wouldn't say you need to lose 5 pounds. I promise you it wouldn't say your nose is too big, your hair is too kinky. I promise you it wouldn't police you at all. It would accept you, and it would find nothing but things to appreciate, things that are valuable about you as you are. That's liberation. When we look at ourselves through the eyes of love and we treat ourselves with love instead of treating ourselves by policing ourselves through the eyes of criticism and rejection and punishment. This is the liberation. Are you punishing yourself if you don't look like how you think you should look? If you don't have the amount of money in the bank account that you think you should have? If you don't have the degrees or whatever you think you're telling yourself you need in order to be acceptable in this society, are you punishing yourself? If you are your own oppressor. And it is time to liberate yourself from that. It is time to liberate yourself from that. When you put down the weapons of mass destruction, of shaming yourself, judging and criticizing yourself, punishing yourself, you will recenter yourself in a space of love. You will feel lovable, and you will feel at peace, and you will begin to only manifest a life that affirms how lovable you are and reflects how lovable you are and supports you feeling lovable and supports your peace instead of keeps you feeling ashamed, keeps you feeling less than, and keeps you feeling stressed out. The key is in your hands though. It's not in theirs. They don't take that key. They can't take it away. They can't give it to you. They can't unlock the door. You have it. You are your own oppressor first. And once you stop oppressing yourself, you can't have external oppressors. There's a quote, I can't remember what. Oh man, there was a quote. It says something about once the war inside of me ends, the war outside of me ends too. Something like that. But the basis is the war outside of you is only a reflection of the war that you have within yourself. This is the master level understanding of the soul. What you see outside of you is only a reflection of what's going on inside of here somehow. And so if we are experiencing oppression outside of us, it's because inside of us we are oppressed. We are oppressing ourselves somehow. And when we stop oppressing ourselves, this oppression will stop as well. Guaranteed. And it will almost seem like magic. This is the stuff that they're not teaching us in our schools. This is the stuff they're not even teaching you in churches. They're not teaching you anywhere, but this is how the reality actually works. When you change your internal state and you change how you're treating yourself and what you believe and how you show up in the world has to change to match you. You're not changing to match the world. The world is changing to match you. When you stop being your own oppressor, you'll stop experiencing oppressors outside of you. Now, they may still be there and they may still be oppressing somebody else, but it won't be you because you won't be an energetic match for them. And nothing can come into your reality that's not an energetic match to you. Nothing. If it's in your life, it's a match to your energy somehow. And when you change your energy, you change by how you treat yourself and what you think and how you show up. All this outside of you has to change too. It has to be a mirror reflection of that. It has to be. It has to be. It can't stay in your life if it's not. You don't even have to actively put it out. You don't even have to. That's the other magic thing. You don't even have to actively like try to make it go away. You just change your energy and you change how you treat yourself and watch how things that don't match that just leave on their own. Just watch. This stuff, my teachings don't work in theory, they work in practice. Do these things, prove these things to yourself. I'm not just saying little things to be cute. This stuff works, but you have to work it. So, the last thing I want to share with you is like we talked a little bit about this before, but I want to make this another point is the other place we're oppressing ourselves is like we're overgiving. We are chronic overgivers. Like, are you being like again an endless well for others in your life to exploit and overuse? Are you constantly saying yes to things? Are you always in relationships where you're the resource, right? Whether the resource is you're the teacher, or you're the one giving out of the money, or you're the one always showing up with your time and energy to help. Whatever that is, you are we have to learn how to receive. Always giving out is a form of oppression. That's what exploitation is about. It's always taking from you instead of giving to you. But you have to participate in that cycle. You have to give, right? You have to give out. And so the thing is, are you going to become balanced? And I am, again, I'm teaching things I had to learn. This is all this stuff I had to learn. And I'm talking about this is stuff I had to learn in my own healing journey to experience my own well being. I was a chronic overgiver. I grew up with two parents who were always giving out. And the message that I got as a kid was basically to be a good person. You gave and you gave and you gave till you had nothing left to yourself, to where you were basically limping to the barn with nothing. And this is kind of how, and this showed up with, like, I was always attracting friends where I was always the teacher. I was always teaching them. I was always helping them. I was always the one helping. I was in relationships where I was always giving out, giving out, giving out, never really receiving. I was always having to make things work. I was always making the plans. I was always showing up. I was always asking. I was always giving out. Yeah, that's oppression. And again, this is how we get exhausted. This is how our energy force, our life force gets drained. Where you're not balanced, where you're not receiving, when you don't allow yourself to receive, when you don't say, this isn't, like, I also deserve to receive. I can say no. I can have boundaries, right? And remember, I talked about earlier in this video, like, there's a message in our community, right? If you get money, if you're the one that gets money in your family, it's your responsibility to take care of everybody else. Even if you don't want to, even if your needs, even if you have other things you need to be focusing on with your money, you need to help everybody else. That's another way where you become an overgiver and you become drained. And this is how you become oppressed, where you don't even feel free anymore. And this is the big thing I see in the black community, is most of the black people that I know are overgivers, especially the women, especially black women, and especially black gay men. We both have that same kind of thing in common in our cultures. We are overgivers. We're always showing up. We're always giving out. And to the point where our energy is being exploited and overused. And I mean energy, it could be your time, it could be your money, it could be your body, it could be all of that. Like, if you're always if in relationships that are imbalanced, where you're not receiving as much as you give out, it's supposed to be reciprocal, it's supposed to be balanced, right? You're supposed to be nourished. As a matter of fact, the majority of your life is supposed to pour more into you than what you give out to it. And that's actually how well-being actually works as a soul. The majority of your life is supposed to charge you. It's supposed to pour into you more than what you're giving out to it. That's where liberation comes in. But oppression is when you're giving out more than what's coming into you. And that could be coming in by money, that could be appreciation, that could be, whatever, reciprocal, whatever it is, right? But we have to really amp up our relationship with receiving in balance to giving, and not being overgivers, and not always getting in relationships, in situations like, you're at work, you're doing your job, you're doing the next person's job, you're taking on this, you're taking on that. That's not even in your job description, and you're not getting paid for it. You're not getting paid extra for it. That's an overgiver, right? And so it's your cup full, and not is your cup. Are people Do people have straws in your cup drinking from your cup? That's what overgiving looks like, right? You have a cup that you need, that is for your own well-being in your own nourishment and your own wellness and happiness and like well-being in the world. You have a cup and you need everything in that cup, but you got all these straw. You let people put all these straws in there and they're sucking out of that cup. And this is kind of where we are as a culture, as a community. This is kind of cultural for us. And this is how we have been our own oppressors. And this is how we've got to begin to take as a culture, first individually. If you're watching, take note of where you resonate with these things and make some changes, right? So that you can begin to liberate yourself. And as you liberate yourself, then you can show up and help the culture liberate. And then we'll be a liberated people in the country and on the planet, which is what we came here to be as souls anyway. We came here to be liberated, which is why we manifested in this particular time to help liberate ourselves. We are here to live liberated lives. But liberation doesn't come from what they give to us, it comes from what we give to ourselves first. And it's time for us to give ourselves liberation. So, thank you all for watching. It is late. It's now time for me to follow my own advice and get me some rest. So, thank you all for watching. The replay will be available. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, I love you. Now go love yourself. Bye.